Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for checking out this video. This isn't for Indiana Fever fans. This isn't really about Caitlin Clark and the Fever. It kind of is indirectly because I think it makes a huge point, but you all know who Elle Duncan is. We all know how ESPN has treated the Indiana Fever and Caitlin Clark. So I thought it was relevant enough. We'll find out. Maybe it'll end up getting like 71 views and I'll know to never do this again. But I thought this was kind of interesting. Friendly fire from ESPN, as you can see here. Kirk Herbstreit, not a fan of on-air fandom, and he called out Elle Duncan. Yeah, he called out Elle Duncan, and we'll get into Elle Duncan's reply and so forth in a minute. But I thought this was really, really interesting. Kirk's talking about objectivity in the booth, and he, as you see from Awful Announcing, flat out rejects the idea. 100% true. He gives you some leeway, like it says here. See, and there's a difference. And I think this is where the distinction that L's trying to avoid is made, talking about people like Bill Simmons, Stephen A. Smith, Pat McAfee, and so forth. They are completely 100% opinion guys, right? And that is different because Elle Duncan, when we're talking about Elle Duncan, what he's talking about is a lot of her flat out over the top cheering for Georgia when she's doing SportCenter. Now, SportCenter is supposed to be this objective analysis. They're supposed to bring you the highlights and break things down and all of that. And okay, well, here's the direct quote. I didn't think I had it, but you can see here. That's like the second time I've said and that's my first like. You can roast me for those because I hate when people do that. You watch SportsCenter and Elle Duncan is sitting there cheering for Georgia. She's openly cheering. I'm not a fan of that personally. I think it hurts your credibility when that team is playing other teams. Fans are looking at you like, and he gives a dismissive hand gesture, and that is different. I agree with Kirk, and like I said, Mike Tirico kind of did the same thing. He was a diehard Mets fan, Sunday Night Football voice. He walked away from this idea of public fandom. Of course, he's still a Mets fan behind the scenes, right? Not because anyone asked him to, but because he felt his credibility mattered more, and that's what Herbstreit is talking about as well. And look, not everyone likes Kirk. A lot of people don't, but that's true about anyone, right? That's kind of how it works, but he believes objectivity still matters in the broadcast booth. And I 100% agree with that. Of course, Elle Duncan, shocker to none of you, plays the victim. Didn't have this on my bingo card for today, but my fandom doesn't impact in any way what or how we talk about teams on air ever. I just bark. Also whispers, I'm not the only one, so why I get singled out. Well, yeah, you are pretty much a problem in ESPN. And why do I bring this up? Well, we've seen how Elle Duncan has acted with Caitlin Clark and so forth. And by the way, in different settings, like on her podcast, and I think it's hers. Well, that's still connected to ESPN, right? I think where Kirk's going, and this is what Elle's trying to get lost, is what she's doing on Sports Center. And I agree with him completely. And this has been a huge problem for ESPN in general, because indirectly, this is why I say it's kind of about Caitlin. We've seen all of the takes that they have on Caitlin Clark and the hatred that they have for Caitlin Clark. And people know when they go to ESPN, they're not going to get truth because these ladies aren't going to give you that. And another aspect of this that I think is kind of an example as well is something that the WNBA has to clean up is they need to spend a little money on announcers, even if they're going to have people do some games that aren't at the game. And what do I mean by that? Well, we've heard a lot of the complaints from especially Fever fans when you get, say, the Atlanta Dream broadcast team because you're watching a game on WNBA, on League Pass, and they're just flat out over the top rooting for the Atlanta Dream. I mean, to me, it's the point where they shouldn't even be doing the local broadcast because it's so ridiculous. But that being said, for example, my Phillies, my Sixers, any of you have other teams that you root for when you live there locally and you get those local broadcasts, you have your broadcast team. They're rooting for your team. They're employed by your team. And I get that 100%. But if those games, for example, the Phillies game is done nationally, you've got national broadcasters. And I know it gets kind of tricky, but the WNBA is going to put all these games on League Pass. Like they're going to do games live. They've got to get away from the local feed because it's just not objective enough. It's over the top cheering, which is kind of what we're talking about here. It's a little different, but it's relative to what Kirk is saying with Elle Duncan. And yeah, right says it. I mean, he's right. You can do that. You can do that or do what you want, I guess, but people watching any coverage don't want the host openly cheering one way. Only exception being if you just cover that team, which is the point I was trying to make with the whole local thing, right? When I watch my Phillies, when I watch my Sixers, and I'm watching a local broadcast game, yeah, I want my Sixers announcers, right? It makes sense. But if the game is on ESPN and it's national, you don't want that. You have a different job than him. You are a TV anchor. He's an analyst. As a storyteller, providing favoritism toward a team can alter the story you are trying to portray. At the level you are, you should not show favoritism toward a team, as this can change the narrative. I don't know what the rest of this says. I'm afraid to click it of the viewer. Okay, well, thank you for that. And she had some defenders, of course, because Javon wants to Joy Taylor L. Duncan. Oh my gosh, because Kirk knows you're terrible. Respect him for being honest. So why I get singled out is probably the single most ridiculous question I've ever heard from someone who is supposedly at least half educated. Great work, Disney. Keep hiring idiots and dumbing down America. Wow. So Marcus, don't pull any punches, man. Uh, but yeah, I gotta say I agree with Kirk. I thought I wanted to bring this to y'all because Elle Duncan, we know we've had some issues in history with Elle Duncan and Caitlin Clark, and I think this is something that needs to be emphasized. This is how it used to be, folks. Right? I've talked about SportsCenter before and ESPN and how good it used to be, the worldwide leader in sports, and you had people like Chris Berman, and you had people like Stuart Scott, and you had when he was there, you had people like Rich Eisen, who were just really, really good at what they do. And I like Mike Tirico now too, by the way. I shouldn't say now like I didn't like him before, but I'm saying, I like Mike Tirico. I think he does a really good job as well. And I think when you're talking about a flagship show like ESPN's Sports Center, you cannot have your anchors of a show like that openly cheering for a specific team or specific teams. It just doesn't work well. It's like Kirk says, if I go turn into a Sports Center and I see that, I'm less likely to tune in again because that's not why I'm there. Because then I'm thinking, well, my team are rivals to her team, so I'm not going to get fair coverage and fair and good insight. It's kind of like we all know we don't tune in for Caitlin Clark coverage to ESPN. We don't tune in for it. We don't tune into NBC with the likes of Natalie Esquire because it's not going to be fair coverage about Caitlin Clark. Anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Do you want to see the likes of ESPN and other organizations clean up this type of stuff and have less over the top obvious fandom like fangirling like Elle Duncan does? Or are you good with it? You might be good with it, and that's fine too. Let me know in the comments below. Smash the like button, subscribe to the channel. You know the drill. Go have a fantastic day. Or I just flipped that from the beginning, didn't I? I was supposed to say you go have a day you deserve. So you got me distracted. Anyway, I will talk to you later.